encourage others to maybe get into 4-H or FFA, those type of things. Anything else?
Always be a learner. That's kind of my motto.
Yeah.
Be learning and growing.
So we've been asked different times of what our history is, what's our personal connection to farming and stuff, and so kind of give you a little perspective. And so, Kami, what was your history growing up with farming?
None.
Where are you from?
Lake Ladawanda, Missouri.
Yeah.
Which is, growing up, that was outside the suburbs, but it's definitely in the suburbs and has been for a good number of years now. But it was kind of right on the verge of city and country.
Yeah, and I grew up around central Missouri area and did most of my growing up around Russellville, Missouri. So my grandparents owned a small 20-acre farm there, had a few cows, but never was really part of that operation at all. And then my grandfather passed away when I was a freshman in high school and never got to do any of the work. So not any background in farming or anything. And so so how we got started with farming, or where we're at now, we moved to Fulton area in 2008. I was on staff at a church here, and as our kids were growing up, we started having kids, and it wasn't until about 2000, when did we move here? 2017. Our kids started being asked to help with their friends at some of their 4-H projects, some of their showings and stuff like that. And so they helped show dairy cows and pigs, and Charlie got some goats and stuff like that.
I think that was about it.
Yeah.
Mostly dairy cows, hogs, and then there was a year she had a friend that her mom actually messaged me asking if Charlie would be willing to help show one of their Nigerian dwarfs at a fair not far from here, not our counties, elsewhere. And I kind of volunteered her, and Charlie was really mad at me, and then she loved it, and the rest is kind of history, in my opinion.
Yeah. And so they were asked to help show, maybe they had too many animals, and so they needed to have more animals in the ring with them, and so they were asked to do that. And then also some peewee shows. Our favorite was the peewee show for the swine at our local county fair. All of our kids got in there and helped with that and stuff. And I got to thinking, I was like, man, our kids are cheating. They're not doing any of the work to help with these projects until the day of the county fair. And I was wanting us to get into livestock way early. When we moved out here to the country, we have 5 acres. I wanted us to jump in. That wasn't your story, right?
Definitely not, because when we moved here, we were living off of a single income.
Yeah.
I had just found out I was expecting baby number 4 and was not working regularly that year. I ended up doing some subbing positions, and financially that did not make sense at all. And also, being a stay-at-home mom for so many years, I also know realistic limits and the mental load that will come, even if the finances were there, the mental load of keeping 4 kids all doing what they need to be doing, want to be doing, should be doing, along with just trying to keep my sanity. It wasn't resisting so much as it was a reality check of life is not ready for this yet. Would it be fun? Yes. Do I want to do it yet? No. So I held off, and even now, while he might have wanted to do it years before, even now I don't regret waiting until we did.
No. Other than our oldest, he's not into livestock, but that's just his personality also.
He was in high school by the time we got our first livestock, so anyone with kids kind of knows by the time you get to especially middle school, but definitely high school, yes, they're still kind of finding who they are, where their place is at in life. I think in general, what things they're still interested in, what new things they want to try. But by that point, he had pretty well honed in on the things that he was interested in, wanted to do, and he was succeeding and thriving in those areas. So we fully supported his decisions and the things that he was interested in too, and I think even he can tell you we ran all his stuff just as much, equally so.
Yeah, yeah. But then we started with goats, and we have to thank some of our mentors, some of our just friends in this area. The Humphreys got us started with some things, the Gephards, but it really started with goats and Tammy Smiley. And so, why don't you tell that story about how we got started with goats?
Well, after Charlie actually showed with one of our friends, the Nigerian dwarf show at a nearby county, she really liked him. It definitely helped that she had a great friend that was showing to kind of reaffirm that excitement. But we were a year out from the next showing season when she kind of decided, yeah, I'm interested in goats. And so we knew that we needed to get some type of goat that was manageable by size for a 10-year-old girl, where they wouldn't get so big that she didn't feel like she wanted to go out because it was too much. And then also something we had to decide if we wanted to do meat goats or dairy goats, because at the end of a meat animals season, they are marketed, which means they are no longer around. So being able to maneuver through loving something for however many months on end, and then being able to say goodbye to it at the end of it on a certain timeline, and pretty immediately decided that was not going to be the best route for her, at least getting started. So our good friend Tammy always runs a great supportive program as far as kids getting into it. Gave us a heck of a deal, I'll say that, on 2 goats, and that are the miniature size goats. And we ended up buying 4 of them, kept 3 over many, many months because the 4th one ended up being too much of a bully. They all had horns. We loved them to pieces, but when Charlie finally did make her first Nigerian dwarf, like full-blooded registered purchase, we quickly realized that horned versus no horned goats don't mesh well. And in dairy goats, to show them, they are supposed to be disbudded or pulled, in other words, not having horns. So eventually this past year we finally sold the last of the horned ones. And
Yep. So you guys have Nigerian dwarf goats registered now, right?
Yes. And
Yep.
when he says you guys, because Charlie and I are the
yeah.
goat mamas, and he and Levi are the sheep daddies, and we pretty much divide the farm that way collectively, so that we're not having to each parent can learn the best and the most that they can with their species of animal, because even though they're both small ruminants, there are things that are just very different.
Yeah.
And since ours are dairy and theirs are primarily meat animals, you raise them differently. Biosecurity sometimes even looks differently with those. So it's a matter of each of us trying to become an expert as much as we're able to, knowing that we will always have more things to learn more about in our respective animal, and working with that child with them too.
Yeah, and I think that's really important. One of the things that we have done over the years is really try to ask questions and to learn. Learn by asking questions, but also learn by mentors and getting as much information as we can. Reading books, doing podcasts, like just listening, those different things. And so Levi, how we got into sheep is Levi started doing some show lambs with one of our great friends and mentors, Larry Henneke, and then also with Dan Rhodes, and now with Lane Fouch. And so those guys really helped us out with that. So Levi showed a couple of market lambs a couple years in a row. Charlie started last year. But then Levi, as he got into high school with FFA, he was needing an SAE project, a Supervised Agricultural Experience project. And so he applied for a grant with the Missouri Sheep Producers and was granted that, $1,000 scholarship, which helped him buy half of a flock of sheep. And then we were able to pool money between myself, the parents, and Levi, and buy the other half. And so we started off with around 9 sheep or so, Dorpers registered. And so we've been growing that since then. So we're second year, going on third year of that. And so we've learned, I think, with both the goats and the sheep, we've learned through a lot of hard knocks and growing pains. I know one of our lambing seasons last time around was very hard.
Our first lambing season.
Yeah, we learned a lot about nutrition and different things and parasites and learned the hard way. And we've because of that, we've had a really good lambing season this last one, and so I'm encouraged about that. But maybe what are some of the trials or things that you guys have learned over those years?
I think, I don't know if I'd call it trial, it's sometimes just trial and error. But the hardest part, I think, with the dairy goats for us getting into it was getting connected with people that knew dairy goats, that knew things that were different or specific to not just any goat, but dairy goats that you plan to milk. Because I was clueless, having zero background in anything milking related, much less ag in general, when it comes to livestock. And so there was things like we knew and we're learning about parasites and things to look for. And I really did I think Preston would support this, but like I really got in there and I was studying. It sometimes looked like I was just on my phone, but I'm like, scavenging through Facebook pages that were specific to goat emergencies or goat issues and just kind of learning as much as I could about them. So because I committed to that and reached out to the very select few people I had to reach out to, I felt like I had a good handle on it as a beginner. Not an expert, but definitely a good handle as a beginner to things to look for. We did lose our first Nigerian dwarf that we bought that was registered less than a year after purchasing her due to a heavy parasite load that was too far, like too little too late, and that was unfortunate. But she had already kidded triplets. One of them was almost DOA, barely alive, but the other two we still had. And over the course of the last year, especially since May, our network and connections to other people in the dairy goat industry has exploded, and continue to meet more people, and feel like I have easily a handful of people that are dairy goat specific that I can reach out to at any given time for questions, no matter how big or small, and I'll get some good quality feedback. So that's been the biggest growth, I would say, definitely, is just finding those people.
Yeah, I think we're still trying to establish who we are as a homestead, but then also our breed specifics, because like Kami said, just so much to learn on the dairy goat side, but then also for our sheep. The Dorpers are not as known around this area. So understanding those breed things, but then we've also started a commercial side to help produce meat into our community and that, and so we're still learning on that, and so yeah, we've learned about a lot about farming through that or homesteading. So we also get asked why do we start this? Why do we put content out? Why do we post about different things? And I think as I was thinking through that, there's three different things that we do. The first is to encourage others who don't have a background in farming or homesteading and stuff like that you can do it on a very small property, and you can do it with very specific breeds or our focuses. We have the type of animals that we have because we don't have much land. But also it piques our interest, and it provides for our family and for others. And
there's a lower cost point overall.
That's a big thing
with these animals than there are larger animals. The bigger the animal, the more, if you have any kind of parasite issue, automatically the more medication that you need for that. And sometimes just the cost point, because a larger animal needs more amounts of everything, whether it's land or medication or feed or hay, more facilities, barns and things like that. You have to kind of do it within your means. Start with what you can, knowing you're not going to get it all right away, but just have the initiative, the drive to do a little bit at a time at a pace that works for you, not going too big too fast.
Yeah, and that brings us to our second point, and that is to educate. I feel like one of the things we've benefited from is people just being willing to answer our questions that we have, even as dumb as they were, and as we asked them over and over again because we're in the heat of having to figure out this crisis or whatever, but to educate others about what it means, our different breeds, but then also people to goats and to sheep and small ruminants. I know I really enjoy going to schools and being invited to do petting zoos or things like that, and just telling them about, okay, this is a Dorper sheep, this looks different. Anything on education?
I mean, it's always fun to share your animals. I think one of the reasons why I jumped in with the goats as much as I did, and Charlie and I, we have hands on our goats mostly multiple times every day. It's a rare day that goes by where we don't physically have our hands on our own goats in some way or the other. Whether it's checking the matcha like parasite load, or, oh, this one's scratching, let's make sure we don't have, some kind of mite issue. And, if we hear a cough, just making sure it's an isolated event. But they have some very spicy personalities, which I kind of like. And so it was easy to fall in love with them. And when you really are passionate or enjoy something as much as I've been enjoying, I know the goats, then you also really enjoy sharing that with others. A lot of my coworkers have heard me remind them, don't ask me about my goats unless you want to hear about my goats, because you will hear about my goats.
Yep. And last is just to entertain. We have a lot of family and friends that are not in farming, and so we put stuff out there because they want to know about our lives. They love seeing the goats, the baby goats, the sheep running around having zoomies and stuff like that. So there is an entertainment part of it. We like sharing what's going on. And yeah, we get people asking us. I'll go to a meeting or something like that, and they're like, "Oh, I love seeing your animals and stuff," and so that's always fun, the entertainment value. So, just to wrap this up, again, we're Thompson Timbers Homestead, first generation homesteaders. We're not full on homestead, but we're adding things here and there. Kami's done a great job adding goat milk products. And she's rolling out more and more of those. Those are great. Now we have a commercial line for our sheep meat, and then also breeding stock. And so there'll be more things that we'll be sharing here in the near future, especially as show season comes along. You'll be able to see the behind the scenes and our successes and probably a lot of failures in the show ring and stuff like that. But if you have anything that you would like for us to post or to educate about, let us know. We would love to dig into that, to take those times to share about it. But also, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us, and we'd love to answer those. And so thank you for watching our videos and paying attention to things that we're doing. Thank you for buying some of Kami's products for soap stuff.
Shameless plug, you can reach me on Facebook at Thompson Timbers Homestead page, or you can find it on our Etsy page, Thompson Timbers Soap.
Yep, and you got some new products coming out that I'm really excited about. So thank you guys for tuning in, and we'll see you next time. Bye.
Yeah, I definitely do videos differently.